Yes, it's first, any public comment? That would be the first step, right? It's the first piece, right? Anything? Guess there's no public here, so none. Anyone have any parts of the agenda they want to change? Additions, deletions, changes?
Uh,
Go ahead, Mike.
no, I don't have any changes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess so. The first one would be, we're going to talk about our mission, I guess, just to reaffirm our mission. I guess the only update I have on that pending a request to the select board to change our name to the town center committee, not the town center and library committee. The library is in good shape. They have a maintenance plan. They've done a bunch of work recently, and they have their own board of directors. So I guess it makes sense to break us off and focus purely on the town center building. Is that amenable to everyone? Anyone have any thoughts on that? It hasn't been done yet, hasn't been adopted, so.
I totally agree with doing that, only because since it's kind of if we're trying to be transparent with the public, it's important for them to realize we have nothing to do with the library committee. I mean, the library decisions, it's the select board and the trustees.
I mean, the only thing I have to say is, I mean, are we supposed to be having something to do with it? I mean, what does the select board think about this?
I mean, I guess that as far as the rest of the select board, I'm not sure. My understanding is that this was kind of, the committee was created to review the entire campus and the whole area and look at the whole plan going forward, including the library building. And it seems like the plan has kind of evolved into doing some significant maintenance in the library building, but keeping it as is. So there's, I think that initially there was kind of the idea that there might be a proposal for a complete new building that would combine the town center and the library into one building and all that. And so I think that was my understanding, is that was the logic behind making it one committee having oversight of both, but that situation has changed a little bit. But I think that that's a good question, Mike. The select board will take that up, and I'm sure I wasn't involved in the committee or the select board when that decision was made, so I'm sure there'll be some insights that'll be, I'll have a little more thought behind them.
I think that the thing for me is the select board has already determined that we have nothing to do with the library, because they have been approving spending of funds out of the reserve for exterior work on the library without it having passed through our committee. So the select board is really needs to determine if they want us involved, then they have to stop going around us. That's their decision that they're allowing to happen, not a decision that's anything to do with us.
Right, I agree with that. I mean, I think I don't have a problem with taking our name off from it if that's their desire. But if they would like us to be more involved, then they ought to direct that to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't, just if I were to guess, I don't think that that's the direction. I don't think they expect us to be involved, but I mean, if that is an opinion or anything that anyone has on the board, I mean, I imagine it'll come up on our next meeting when we discuss it.
Sure. And so that then they need to establish that if they want to keep the name on it. I mean, the biggest thing is we share a reserve fund, and the select board then has to have their pulse on that reserve fund for which building that they're spending the money on, and that's on them.
It's tricky because we don't have the ability to separate the reserve fund out, I guess, by how the reserve fund was created. It's going to be one reserve fund indefinitely, so that is going to be the select board.
Well, they technically could establish a second reserve fund, and they could establish a reserve fund specifically for the library and say, okay, this is the last draw of the funds for the library, because we need the remaining of the funds to do. We've spent $400,000 on the library in the past 3 years, and we spent 10 on the town center. At some point, you're going to have to say we need to use some of these funds for the town center. But if they choose not to and say it's a first come, first served basis, that's the select board's decision. I'm not questioning it. I just want clarification with it.
Sure.
Whichever way they want to go. So the name change is really on hold. They're going to give, the select board's going to give us more insight into what their expectations are for us. I'm just restating things as I'm taking notes on it. Okay. So I just want to make sure I'm getting that. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Back to reaffirming our mission. Back in August, we passed a resolution establishing a mission statement that said, I hadn't heard, we thought it was a big deal. We finally passed something, but I hadn't heard anything about it since then, and I had a hard time finding it. But I finally did, and it said, recommend a socially and financially responsible plan for the town of Richmond to secure the library and town center buildings as long-term assets with public awareness and support. I think it's time we started working on that plan. We really have been all over the place for most of the last year, and I've tried to bring this up a couple of times, and we kind of said, well, we're going to get to it and so forth. But I think we need to start working on the plan to move forward in some way with all of the known things that are wrong with it, not just the list of items and so forth that we've come up with, but we have some major problems that need to be addressed, and we need to get them on the agenda somehow. I believe if we get to hire the OPM that Matt has put an RFP together for, will help us with that. But I think Matt did a great job in laying that out. I assumed he was going to be at the meeting. I emailed with him a couple of times about it just recently. He got back. But I'm one thing I am worried about the finances, and I'm worried about the money in our maintenance fund. If we hire this OPM, we're going to have to pay him. I assume that money comes out of the maintenance fund. We're likely going to need to have some others involved, architects, engineers.
Mike, clarity. Are you saying maintenance fund as in a budget line item or the reserve? I want to make sure.
The reserve fund is what I'm talking about. Yes.
Okay, because there is a maintenance fund too. I want you to be aware of.
Well, I wasn't aware of that. I don't know what that is.
So the reserve.
The reserve fund that's funded through the rents that we're receiving. Is that the one I'm talking about?
Yes, that's the reserve fund.
Okay. So there's a certain amount of money in there. I don't know how much money's in there, for one thing. We're going to be needing to hire, if we go through the process that's kind of outlined in the RFP for the OPM, we're going to have to go through and hire some other people, probably architects and engineers and so forth, to get through this process. I have no idea how much that's going to cost. So, I think we really need to try to get a handle on that money, and is there enough money in there? And I'm kind of reluctant to try to spend anything out of that until we get a handle on that. We've also, hearing that the post office roof's been leaking, and that may be an emergency situation we have to deal with sometime in the future. So
did it leak again? Have you received or noticed this leak recently?
What?
The post office roof last I
heard, it was back last fall. I think it's frozen up now, so it's probably not leaking as far as I know. I haven't heard anything recently.
I think they thought they had repaired it, is my question. So I just wanted to make sure I hadn't heard something.
I know they had. It showed up as documents for one of our meetings without being on our agenda or anything back, I don't know, last fall sometime, that they had someone come in and give them a proposal that was like $200,000 to $250,000 or something to replace that. But I don't know where that all stands. We've never discussed it. So, I think we need to get a handle on, but I know from the town report what was in that fund I think it was the 1st of July, at the beginning of the fiscal year, but we've had rents come in since then and probably stuff going out of it. It'd be nice to find out what's in it. And also, I think maybe once we get the OPM on board, that they can help us put together some kind of an estimate of what we're going to need. I hate to see us spend this fund down to where we trying to do things and don't have money to do it.
So Adam, I just want to ask you, because we're on the reaffirm the mission and the priorities was your first thing on that, but we seem to have jumped down. Do you think we should talk about the RFPs as part of those priorities so that we can then go back up and talk about the other things?
I guess the two are directly intertwined, right?
Right. So can we jump to the RFPs as a priority and the three of us discuss those RFPs now?
Sure. I mean, I guess I without establishing a mission, it seems tricky to, or not establishing. We've established a mission. Without knowing where we stand on that mission, it's kind of tricky to discuss those. But I guess we kind of either, no matter which way we do it, we're going to be talking about both at the same time in some capacity, right? So
yeah.
Right. So I think since we'll pull those priorities in, because if those are something that we're going to just move ahead with because we find that they're a priority, then it might shift other priorities after them. Does that make sense?
it does, yes.
So can we jump down to the windows and doors, or do we want to go to the OPM first? We can mix up those orders of that. Do you want to talk about the OPM since Mike's brought it up?
Mike, do you have a preference? Do you want to just start with windows and doors?
No, I don't. I mean, we can talk. Yeah, we've started in on the OPM. I kind of hoped Matt would be here, that he wrote that, but I did. He had a section highlighted in here where he was looking some help describing the building, and I did take a shot at doing that and sent to him. And just before I got on, I don't know when he sent it. I got an email from him saying he liked what I had written. But I could read what I gave him if I can find it here somewhere. What I gave him to describe the building, where he had the yellow highlighting in there, I wrote, the building in question is a 2-story brick structure that was built in the early 20th century to house the Richmond school system. When the schools moved to a new building, the building was converted to office space and is now home to the Richmond town government offices, paying tenants, U.S. Post Office and Mount Mansfield Community Television, donated space for several nonprofits, community organizations. The building is located in a FEMA-designated floodplain and has recently experienced increasingly frequent floods, with water entering the basement areas of the building, damaging materials stored there, and putting at risk critical heating and electrical infrastructure of the building. So that's what I sent him, and he liked it. So I also said we can amend it and change it if others don't.
I don't think we need the flooding, and we're not talking about all the other issues with it. I don't think we need to talk about the flooding issues, because it's
I certainly do think we need to. I think it's a major part of what when we're hiring somebody, we're looking for someone with experience in that area. And I think that, and Matt asked for that in his, what he wrote is, it says building in question is, and then he highlighted, provide a brief description, including historical significance, current use, and any known issues related to flood risk or code compliance. So that's what I tried to do.
Okay, I know he said flood risk and code compliance, but are we not listing them out with the scope of work? That's where I'm confused, because wouldn't we list out the code compliance issues then too? That's my point is, I'm just.
Well, we could add something about code compliance. I don't know. I think
it's fine, whatever you want to do. I'm not going to tweak it.
Yeah.
It's just my point. We're just trying to point out flood issues. There's many other issues too. So
this is a first cut at it. If anyone
sounds
has
great, Mike.
Better words, I can.
Nope, sounds great, Mike. I'm good. I have the draft from him up. If you want me to share a screen so we can.
Go for it.
Host has disabled participant screen sharing, so.
Oh, is that, hey, Duncan, are you the host? Can you enable screen sharing for us?
I don't think he's there. I think he just turned it on for us.
Hold on, what do you need me to get? I'm sorry.
That's okay. Enable screen sharing.
Oh,
Kara.
screen sharing. Sorry. Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
Let's see. Should be going. It's one of those ones that it's always weird how that goes. You should be able. Yeah, there you go. I see it.
Are
I
you
see it.
Are you seeing the RFP?
Yes.
Good. I just want to
I
make
see,
sure.
yeah, I see your document. Yeah. Sorry for the delay.
No problem. Thanks, Duncan.
Do you see? Thank you, Duncan. Do you see the highlighted area? Want to make sure I'm sharing the right screen.
I see it.
Okay. Cool. Thank you.
You can, yeah.
Okay, so this is the area that you've added in that language for. He does
Yes.
say
Yes.
flood risk. I just was seeing that the flood mitigation. I was seeing it elsewhere, so I'm like, why are we just limiting it to that? But he has a comprehensive assessment of the building, development, design, integration, preservation, historical elements in accordance with relevant guidelines. Here's where we're at. I mean, are we going forward with it? What are we doing? Where are we at?
I thought what he wrote was excellent. I don't have any issues with what he put in there.
Just so I know what your thought process is, Mike, on what your expectations are from this OPM. I just want to know.
I believe the reason that I joined this committee after the vote of the other one, that we needed to come back with a second version of it that was less cost than the original. We have some significant problems that were identified there that we haven't addressed. Some of them we may say we're just not going to do, but we haven't even talked about it. And we need to go through that process. I think that we're going to end up in the end with a project that we're going to have to go back to the voters and ask for money again. And I think we're also going to, for some of the higher cost items, I think we're also going to have a list of items which we can take one at a time as we have money and get them done ourselves without going back. That's my vision of what we're going to end up doing, and we have to sort out. We've got a list. Tara, you and Duncan, I believe, and others put together a list of a lot of maintenance type items that needed to be done, and I've gone through and looked and tried to consolidate that and add in some of the more major things that need to be fixed. I think we need to go through that probably with some of the professionals that we're going to hire and decide which list goes where. We also get the FEMA requirements to get thrown in there, and we'd like to keep the cost down to where we aren't required to do everything. But even if we are, I don't think what Black River proposed is, I want to see a second opinion of that. I mean, I think they threw everything but the kitchen sink at that, and then I don't think they necessarily even met the FEMA requirements. So I think they did that was just a mess. And
can I restate what I'm hearing from you for the notes, Mike, if that's okay? What I'm hearing from you is this RFP, what you're seeing as the goal of this RFP is, in the end, we're probably looking for a bond vote, but there'll be possible phasing if funds are available for some of the pieces of the project. Does that sound about right?
Right, that sounds about right. I think we're going to have to go for a bond vote, but anything that we can strip out of that to do on our own with the funds that are coming into our reserve fund, maybe it takes years to get all of it done. So we can prioritize that list and start working on that with other funds as they come on. But I think there are some things that are going to need to go to the voters and ask for more money that we just aren't going to be able to come up with the money to get some of these done in any reasonable amount of time.
Okay. Adam, do you see, is that your vision as well, or do you see anything different?
I I think broadly speaking, I agree with Mike. I think the phasing is important, and I do think that ultimately to make the building usable for the next 50 years or whatever and set it up so, you know, my kids, your grandkids are there using it, that we're gonna have to do some work to it. That's probably not gonna come out of just the rent.
Yep.
Let's say broadly speaking, I agree with Mike.
Okay, so we are all three of us in agreement with this. So my question to us then is, this
I'm
is
sure that the disagreement will come as we start trying to figure out the phasing and priorities.
correct.
Not the disagreement, I guess. I guess the
discussion.
compromise, the compromise and
discussion.
discussion. Disagreement sets it up in the wrong tone.
Yep,
But
I totally, that's fine. So can we take this OPM and take a vote between the three of us to move this to the select board with Mike's wording, amended with Mike's wording? I'm totally okay with your wording, Mike, even with the flood stuff in there. I'm totally okay with your wording for us to move forward to get this to the select board, to get it out for RFP.
I think that's reasonable. So yeah, I would entertain a motion. Mike, do you want to make the motion to?
I would make a motion that we approve the RFP written by Matt, and with the changes that I had suggested, and I've already given those to Matt, to approve that and move it on to the select board.
I second that.
Got a motion and a second. Anyone have any discussion on it? Duncan, you're the only member of the public. Do you have anything you would like to say? Okay, calling the motion to vote. I guess.
Sarah, aye.
Mike, aye.
Adam, aye. We by the skin of our teeth, we squeak it through.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry on my late comment. No, you guys do a great job. You have enough on your plate, so thank you.
I have one question about it. However, when this goes to the select board, do we need to make some sort of presentation to them on why we need the OPM and what we plan to do?
No, Adam represents us.
So I think there's two things there, Mike. I think that I think that the wording and all the info in the RFP is pretty descriptive. One,
right.
And then I think I can represent it. But if there is anything you specifically would like me to say, I can do that. And then also, if you know, while it wouldn't be a presentation, if you would like to come to that and speak on the agenda item, I think that would also be good.
I'll try to make that meeting. And
okay.
you know,
I don't think we need to have a formal presentation set up, but I think if you want to come and talk, that would be.
And I don't know that I even need to talk. I may be there if there's questions or something that we can.
Or I think we could even throw around a draft of that RFP between a few of us. That's one of those things where we could just throw that around, kick that idea around for an RFP before we post it and stuff. That might be another idea.
Yeah. The end of the RFP also, Duncan.
Duncan, does this
there
not?
Are
are
some
you
blank
saying
spaces in there on where to send their proposals and those kind of things for you and Josh and somebody to fill in?
Yeah. No, we have a template for that where we create a Zoom meeting. We have a physical place, just like open meeting. And we just, put in the specifics up top and maybe throw in a few resources depending on what you guys want for graphics and stuff for maps or whatever. But yeah, basically it's not too hard to do. But yeah, it's just more just getting those details of what you want to advertise to contractors. Yeah.
And I think Matt, I understand, is a professional at writing these things. So I think he did a great job.
Oh, 100% agree. Duncan, while you're still on, our next item is windows and doors. I don't know if Adam has the update on the doors, the security, or if you do, where we're at with the actual doors piece versus the windows.
We've been approved. We're waiting for our contractor to kind of give us a start date.
Hey, Duncan, can you, I guess our big question, I know Kara probably knows Kara, tell me if I'm wrong, but I think the big clarification is, we're just doing the access control and all that, right? Is that RFP was not to actually replace the physical doors, or is that incorrect?
Right. It's most of the physical doors are the same as we have. It's more just a few adjustments with access into the control panel through either You can do it through a phone, a fob, a card, et cetera, but it's not a physical key anymore so much. So,
Gotcha.
and it's got the ability to, once it's electronic, you get a piece of data that you can track. So,
Makes sense.
to cut it to short, and it's just, and it's in certain areas. We're not, it's not like it's been a problem, which is actually great. But it's just something to be a little, we need some of that, and it would
So
help
is there,
a lot of our tenants.
for the main entry door there that has obviously seen better days?
Oh yeah, that one. We need to get a quote for, we have a quote for that.
Okay.
That's a fairly expensive fix. Yeah, those doors, sorry. Those are, I don't want to throw out a number, but yeah, because I hate to do that. But yes, it is.
Commercial doors can be very expensive, but
no, they tried to fix it a few times for us, and it just gets so jammed up, that one little handle, if you know it. I could show anyone if they ever wanted to the problem with those, but those are the ones that are never locked anyways. But those won't still be locked. It'll be the next ones in.
But
can we move?
Can we move forward with just replacing those doors? We are not going to change the entrance area. That's not with no
Right.
plans. Have any? Please replace those doors. Move forward with that. Whatever quote, whatever you need to do there.
Okay,
We're gonna put security on doors.
You can help me.
We're gonna
I
put,
guess the select board still needs to approve it, but you have this committee's full endorsement.
Well, maybe you guys, no, I think you could help me by, if you want to do something with that, that's, I think
what do you need?
I could help you gather the data. Well, no, just, maybe say something of,
I can bring it up. I mean, I guess I'm kind of.
I think, I'm trying to,
you,
Adam,
and
I could go and
take the quote and just get the select board to approve replacing the doors. I mean, do we need to take a vote as a committee right here?
No, but it's a fair, we should look at it again in terms of we should make it a public record decision, I think, of
right, a select board decision.
Yes, let's go look at the quote again. I got to make sure that they've got.
Here we go. As far as the committee goes, I make the motion that we move forward with the quote that Duncan has to present to the select board to replace the doors. I know you might have to get 3 estimates at the time that you actually do the replacement, but I make the motion that we move to replace the entrance doors that are broke. Anybody want to second it?
The very front doors, right.
So,
go ahead, Mike.
do we have any reference on how much that costs?
Here, Mike, quick, I'll second it. So we got a
Okay.
motion in a second. So now we open it up for discussion. Go ahead, Mike.
Do we have any idea what the cost is here?
I haven't seen any quotes.
Like I said, I would
estimate it to be $10,000 to
$20,000.
I hate to throw out a number
off the top of my head. Yeah.
I'm reluctant to pass this on without knowing what it's costing us.
I'll say up to $20,000. I'll amend the motion to say up to $20,000 that the select board will take the best of the 3 estimates provided. It's just like anything else they do. And if it's under 7,500, then Josh, or under 10,000, I think Josh can prove it without having to go to the select board. So I don't know. What do you, 15,000, Adam? I don't know what the cost of doors are.
I don't recall it. I don't recall the actual estimate off the top of my head. I'd have to research it again. We have had a person look at it and tell us about it and give us an estimate. But yes, it's probably over.
10.
I would say 12. I would say 12,000.
There you go.
I were being. Yes, but once again, I don't want to be held to that because I like to look at I like to look at the real data than remember my memory
for me it doesn't matter what it costs. It's going to be they're going to do the same process they do for buying anything else. They need to be replaced. The value of how much it's going to cost to replace it, I can't control that. It needs to be done. So if we need to put a limit in here, Mike, for you to be comfortable, I'm totally comfortable doing that. I would amend the motion to be $15,000.
Mike, what would you? Oh, I guess I'll accept them. I accept the amendment. Mike, what do you What's your threshold? What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I think that's okay, but going back to what I was talking about earlier, I'm concerned about spending a lot of money out of our fund without knowing what we've got and what we need and so forth. I just like to see some numbers, and we're going ahead with things without really knowing. So I don't have a problem with putting a limit of 15,000 on that. I think that's something that we need to get done. So let's continue with that one.
You think that's a reasonable amount, Mike?
I think that's a reasonable amount if we think we can do it for that. And I think in that case, I think Josh can even approve it as far as
Okay. Any more discussion? Calling the motion to a vote.
Mike,
Aye.
All right. Adam, aye.
All done.
Perfect. Two motions passed.
Next one on the agenda is Windows.
Yeah.
You want to speak to this, Mike?
The windows, I mean, we're talking about the interior storm windows, I presume.
Yes.
I did bring that up myself. There's more to that than just buying the windows. We do need to have somebody that's going to install them, and that's going to entail taking down all of the shades that are up there. There's a wooden block that's in at the top part. In order to, all of that has to be taken out, and then if we want the shades back, they probably are going to have to either cut those down or make new blocks in there to attach the shades to and put them all back up again and so forth. So I think that may not be a huge amount, but it's some part of it that we need to add on to what was proposed from the window manufacturer. Again,
my question, can I ask you a question, Mike? So
sure.
The estimate that you've got, the window is just the actual windows themselves. So the installation of them is done by them as well, as long as we've removed this stuff ahead of time, is what you're saying. I just want to make sure I'm understanding correctly.
They didn't seem to be. I asked about installation, and they said the installation was easy and that they would get on the phone and talk to our people that were going to put them up. So they did give us a quote for coming up and measuring. It was I don't have it right in front of me, but it was a little over $6,000, I think, to come up and do that. And they'll the windows are all made specifically for for each window. That's one manufacturer. We're going to have to go out for bids on that. I'm quite sure it's more than $15,000. So we need to find two more. I know there are others out there. I know there's one I think I mentioned. So it isn't easy as just going ahead. I think we need to find someone we got to figure out who is going to install them and get a quote from them of taking all of that down and we're going to have to get the ceiling tiles removed in the area of the window so that they can get up to the top in order to measure them. So there's more to it than just saying, yeah, let's go with it. I don't think we're quite ready there.
So do we need to do an RFP for the installations piece to it? I'm trying to make sure what our next step would be.
I don't know. I have no idea how much that would cost. Maybe Adam, it's more in the construction thing, how much could give us some guess whether it would be over 15,000 or not.
I mean, honestly, I don't have a really good sense just off the top of my head, but I would suspect it would be in that. I mean, by the time we, I'm imagining that the actual install of the windows would be inexpensive, but all of the ancillary stuff that you were talking about would it's going to take more time than would be obvious. So I suspect.
The other part of it is,
Mike, just for my notes, what was the purchase price estimate that you had, so I can just put it into these notes? Because the actual windows itself, so we have that in our notes, and then we know the installation is a separate amount, and the prep, we'll call it the installation and prep work, because whoever's going to install should possibly do the prep work also.
I agree.
Excuse me, I didn't catch what.
I'm putting the installation and the prep work for installation into the same area, which is not part of the actual amount that you're saying for the purchase of the window. So I want to have the purchase of the windows $1 amount and a potential RFP for the prep work and installation. potential RFP is what we have to do for the prep work, getting an estimate for the
Well,
prep work.
I think we'd have to do an RFP for the windows themselves as well.
Oh yeah,
because
but definitely, but the people who are installing the windows and selling the windows might not be the same people, so it might be two different things. So I want to know what you have for your estimate that we've gotten so far to put into these meeting minutes.
I'm trying to find where I had that. Let me see. I'm gonna have to. I'll be right back.
Is that okay, Adam? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, it makes sense to me. I assume it's going to be two
amounts.
RFPs. I would, off the top of my head, guessing, I would imagine that we're going to be near that. I think it's $10,000 is the amount required to approve it for
Josh.
RFP.
That's what I thought. Josh was doing anything below 10 whatever.
I don't know if 10 is like, I guess that's the RFP amount. Is that the amount for an RFP, or is that the amount for Josh's approval, or are those the same number? Do you know?
I think
do you
they're
know?
same.
Okay.
I think that
I
they
think
might
they
be
are
different
too, but I don't want to. Don't hold me to that.
Me neither. We're all good. We don't have to. We don't have to know everything. And Mike, if it's better to do it at a different time, and you just give me the number, and I'll insert it into
Yeah,
the
I
meeting minutes,
don't.
that's fine.
I've
That's fine.
misplaced where I
It's
put
okay.
that. So I
That's
It's
don't
okay.
have it in front of me.
I appreciate you having it. I appreciate all your work and your effort that you've done for this. So thank you. I just want to add as much as I can to the meeting minutes as we go. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead.
One
Mike.
other option, as far as the windows is concerned, is that they said they were going to have to. There is a cost for delivering them. It's fairly extensive as well, but they said they're going to have to come in 2 trips to get into the vehicle and trailer that they bring them in. So there is no extra cost if we come up and have them measure them if we wanted to do only half of the windows at one time.
Okay, we can look at that. That's a good idea for us to look at splitting that up or what all. You get the number. Are you okay since this is something that could be a good construction project next fall? We have to order them. What's the order time for them? How far out do you have to order?
I don't have that number either in front of me. Somehow
Okay, so
I've misplaced my folder.
Order time is going to be key too. So let's put that on our next agenda. Let's put these windows on our next agenda and talk about it. Because if order time is like 2 months, then we know we could do this in early fall when the construction season is winding, or when people aren't in the middle of construction.
Right. Yeah, it would be nice to get them in before the employees start putting the plastic up on the windows. It would also be, I hope that we could also get some of the numbers together as to what we need out of that fund going back towards the longer term project. So I just feel uncomfortable with the funding of that we're spending money on a number of things and other people are spending money out of that fund, and that I want to make sure that we have enough money to do
an awkward situation for sure.
I think for me, the biggest thing is if the select board decides it's a first come first served basis, then we need to get some things done in this building that we know and that we prioritize. Like the door needs to be done, the security needs to be done. We can work on the windows while the OPM is coming in and making the overhaul for the bigger picture, the larger things that we're going to have to go to bond for, vote for. So my direction is really coming from the select board. If it's a first come first served basis, we can't do all the work to the library and do nothing to the town center.
Right. And I don't disagree that we got some stuff doing there. I just want to get rolling on putting together the bigger project to try to get some idea of what the cost. I tried to ask that question to Art when he was in here, if you remember, about who else did we need to hire, who else do we need to pay before we go to a bond vote in order to put this thing together, as far as architects and engineers and whatever. And we never got back to get an answer to my question. I'm hoping that he could help, even if it's just ballparks. I mean, I don't know whether these people are going to cost us $20,000 or $200,000 to get things done. I just have no concept of what I'm looking at what Black River did with all the time they put in, and they had engineers, they had building contractors and so forth that put together stuff for the quotes that I'm sure we had to pay for that. And I just don't have any clue what it was. And it makes me nervous that we're spending money out of this fund, and other people are spending money out of this fund without having any idea what's there and what we need.
Well, even if we go with the assumption there's 300,000, and then if the library spends 100 of it, we're at 200,000. Even if we go with the assumption that there's 200,000, we know for a bond vote, if you're going major things like roofing and HVAC systems, that we're talking in the millions. So we know they're not going to come out of the reserve fund. So the reserve fund needs to be the maintenance things that we can knock off the list that aren't going to be impacted by the other work.
We certainly can't pay for those things, for that construction, out of the reserve fund. But in order to go to a bond vote, we need to put together a proposal with costing and so forth, and we need to have a proposal, know what we're doing, and we can't do that. We need
I understand what you're saying, Mike. We're going to need those
manager
funds.
Can't do that. We need to go, and we're going to have to pay architects and engineers and probably construction people to put together estimates of what it's going to cost. And I don't know what we have to pay them to get that done.
I got you, Mike. So you're worried we burn up the reserve fund and we don't have the money to pay the experts to even get to a bond vote.
Yes.
Makes sense.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So, I'm just really nervous about doing, I know we'd like to get going and do some things. I think the doors are something that's big enough problem right now that and we've already kind of started down the path anyway, to go ahead and get that done. But adding in, I think the windows are going to, if we did all of the windows and everything, we're going to be probably in the $50,000, $60,000 range, I'm guessing. That's a pretty good chunk out of the fund, if we did them all. So, I mean, it's a lot less than the $500,000 it was going to do to replace all the windows, but it's still a lot of money.
It's not just the reserve fund that the select board has access to. So the engineers, the architects, all of those do not just have to come out of the reserve fund. The select board has unallocated funds. They have other monies they have ARPA funds. They have other monies that are available that if that fund starts to we're not going to tap into it that drastically. I don't think so with the projects we're looking at. My point is, if they say it's a first come first served basis, nothing's stopping the library from using it all.
Well,
we need to use
that's true, but I mean, it's nice to say for you and I to sit here. Of course, Adam is the select board, so to say that we'll just go to the select board and get more money. I know they've spent a lot of time on the budget here recently. I'm guessing there's not an awful lot laying around, but
there's plenty.
There's plenty. Whatever the finance, if there's more money we can use, that's great. I just don't know it's there, and I don't know how much is there, and I don't know how much we need, and it makes me very, very nervous.
Well, I'm trying to have us move ahead with some things, and I think that's
so
what
I
we
would
started
say,
the
Mike,
meeting with.
What I would say is that if we are chugging down this path of hiring an OPM, and I think very quickly we'll be able to figure out what other resources we need to pull in and have orders of magnitude on that, independent of what the planning is for the expending the funds between the library and town center. I think if we are clear initially that we need to reserve some chunk of money for those services, the select board will be receptive to that and keeping that in the back of our mind. I don't think that there's going to be a situation where it'll be a race to the bottom and we need to spend the money before the library does. I don't envision that happening kind of in practice with the library, and I don't envision that happening with the select board viewing it that way and letting that fly. Obviously, that's not a guarantee, but I think the majority of the select board is understanding that we need are working on this, and that if we are clear that we need to reserve some of those financial resources and funds to facilitate this process, they will hear our concern and do that. So, not a guarantee, but I mean, I
So
obviously I haven't talked to everyone about it, and we haven't talked about this scenario specifically in a meeting, but I can't envision a scenario where the select board lets all that money be spent on the library, knowing that we are working on this project.
So do we want to move from Windows and bring that back up at our next meeting and move to the next item is under the RFP priorities? It was the property maintenance.
yes, I think maybe.
Okay, does that work for you, Mike?
That works, yeah.
So we are under the understanding that we're likely going to have to do an RFP for the windows, the actual windows themselves, but also for the install and all the ancillary labor. And we're going to reevaluate that or revisit that. I guess it's a future date.
Yes,
Does
I
that
have the
sound good?
meeting notes on that. Yes.
Cool. Okay, I guess on to their next RFP or our next agenda item will be, I guess I don't know if it was formally we discussed as an RFP, but some implementing some type of property management and property maintenance plan. Do you guys want me to start with this or?
I
Yes,
don't
please.
know what that means.
Yes, please.
Yeah, I don't
Yes,
either.
please.
So we had talked about, so there's two parts here, right? Obviously we have, we would need to hire someone to advise us on a project on the building. There's also the other end of it where right now we have Duncan and crew kind of doing all the maintenance and coordinating all the maintenance of the building. And so they've been doing the best job they can do, but it's a very specific skill set to do property management and maintenance and coordinate, and is a very specific group of contacts that you need to have to make sure those projects go off smoothly and quickly and can respond to stuff. So we were talking about potentially exploring either getting a property management contract with a company or a person who can do a bunch of the kind of handyman style stuff in-house, and then have contacts in the various industries to do larger stuff that wouldn't be considered larger maintenance items or emergency response kind of items that wouldn't be considered an overhaul of the building, but would be like kind of standard maintenance stuff. So everything from lighting and electrical repairs and gremlins to boiler service, just kind of coordinate top to bottom, and also be someone that Duncan, whoever, could reach out to with problems so that they could refocus on the town tasks that need to happen, because there's as we were aware, the never ending list of tasks. So we kind of free up this whole chunk of stuff from their plate. So I don't know, that's about as far as I had gotten with that idea. Does everyone think about it? Are we jumping the gun? Is it a good idea? What do we think?
I think it's a good idea. Are there, so we'd hire a commercial property management or property maintenance company to just be the one to go to if you needed something, I guess. As far as that.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. I mean, we'd hire, I don't know if it'd be a commercial, like a larger company. I know there's many smaller companies that are local that do this kind of thing.
Right.
There's individuals who do it. So I guess I didn't have an idea on the magnitude of the size of the company we would hire, but I mean, I would imagine through an interview process and all that, we could find someone, or I guess it would be an RFP process, excuse me, who had the necessary skill sets. And also, I don't think we need to hire like a huge national company that's going to do that level. Like, we're not a factory or whatever. We don't need that kind of
in addition to the handyman kind of maintenance stuff, do we have someone that cleans the building?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
we do.
Yeah.
Yes.
I know there were some comments on Kara's list that the bathroom should be cleaned frequently or something. It kind of seemed like maybe they weren't being, and I just wondered who was responsible for getting that kind of thing done.
I I know there's someone who cleans. That's about the limit of my knowledge on it. So I don't.
Yeah.
That's not what a property, that's not what a property
Yeah, that would be
management
that would be- yeah,
company is
that-
going to
No,
do.
that is not, it's
Obvious.
a similar, but it's a,
I mean, I would leave that. I think that that's something that Duncan and Josh and crew can figure out. I don't think we really, my
don't
take
need
on it,
to, okay.
we don't need to weigh in. I guess
Yeah.
the property management and property maintenance, I think also like, I think that Duncan and Josh can manage that. I think that more it would be to kind of get it set up for them. So I think, right now, I don't know, Duncan's here, he can probably talk to this, but
Well, yeah, I was gonna make the analogy. It's similar to like our IT services. I'm pretty good with computers. I'm pretty good with troubleshooting stuff, but eventually you don't want me to be your professional to figure it
Exactly.
all out. Same thing with a building. I'm pretty good with, walking around a building. I can figure out a few things. I can screw a few things. I'm tall, but I'm really not that good at stuff. So you really don't want me taking care of stuff. You want someone else taking care of that, let alone, other people. It's a tough position to put us all in. And I think it is better looking at that RFP as like okay, you're going to take care of our rodents, or you're going to take care of our elevator, you're going to take care of our, IT services. It's certain things we have to deal with these days.
yeah, it's exactly, he summed it up well. I mean, I think, and it'd also be good. I think it shows a little bit, and it's good. It's encouraging for Duncan to know this is coming not entirely from our end. Obviously, it's beneficial for you too. It frees you up to do your other stuff. But I mean, to show that we think this is the right path too. So it's not Duncan coming forward and saying, "Oh, I got all this on my plate. You gotta get someone to help me." It's us.
No,
saying,
it takes a team effort to keep track
Yeah.
of this building. Obviously, we all do it. It's like,
Yeah.
I try to walk around a lot. There's plenty of other people who give us lots of good feedback. It's just, it's a lot of tender loving care. We've got to,
Exactly. Yeah.
we got an old home we all own. So we got to all take care of it in different ways. And it's, no, it's just that challenge. But yeah, likewise, you don't want me being the one. I'm not one of those guys who's gonna. Yeah, I'm not that good mechanically. I know my limits on that. I know what I don't do well. So,
And Duncan, how do you imagine this working? I've done this in a few different ways. First way, it's probably not in our sites, is just full-time in-house person, right? The second way is more of a company you move through to kind of get whatever done. The third way, the third way is just kind of a contact list that we've established relationships with, right? It's like, this is our company for HVAC. This is our company for rodents.
No, I think I've done the third way. I think I've done the third way pretty well in terms of, I've got a good contact list. If I were to, move on tomorrow, I would pass on a list to someone else who would take my job, who could contact other people. I feel confident in doing that. It's more just like, I just want to, it's like, yes, I'll try to troubleshoot a few things, but then I just don't want to have to deal with figuring it out too long.
Yeah.
Because there are other stuff to do. And it's like, as you pull a string in a building like this, it's like you do get, you're like, okay, it's like, and there are certain, and it's like, okay, now I got to get, if I'm really going to solve this, I got to get into a different frame of mind. I got to,
Sure.
maybe change my clothes, it's like, it's a whole different, it's a whole different situation for it, and a different expertise. And once again, that I'm more of a Renaissance guy, where I know enough where I'm like, no, this is beyond what you want me to do, and I don't want me doing it for the town either. So it's like, I want someone else doing this for the town.
So Matt, I would propose. I mean, not propose, but I guess there's a middle ground there where I know on some of more stuff this size, like the Essex town office, when you built that, put together, there's a like individual you can contract with. So it would be kind of similar to having a full-time in-house person, but you only contract for a certain amount of hours, or a retainer kind of situation.
That's what I always envisioned.
So there's no benefits. There's no one on the payroll. It's a contract, but you kind of have one person who they would kind of be the expert at the handyman stuff that Duncan is humbly saying he is okay at. And then they would have that contact list, and they'd also manage it too. and they would
Yeah.
be able to pull on resources. So I
Yeah,
mean,
it's a lot
it's another option. I mean, that's kind of what I was envisioning, but that doesn't mean that's the way we got to go. It's just kind of, I had experience with that. So that's what I was thinking about the top of my head. I
No,
don't
that
have
makes
any
sense.
individual in mind, but I know that it's a pretty decent, market.
Yeah.
And some
Yeah.
other people that do that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's right. I was just trying to contextualize the ask. And frankly, Duncan, I feel for you, man. I'm currently managing a large facility, and it is brutal.
No, it's a great profession, and I know my limits. Once again, once again, we all take care of it in different ways, and that's what's great about the town of Richmond.
Yeah.
We do all embrace that town in many ways that I'm surprised at. So it's we do a great job.
No, I think that makes total sense to me, and I sympathize with the time suck that is, and I fully understand the ask. I would certainly support that. I guess to the committee and to Duncan, how do you think, we have a maintenance budget now for the building. How do you think this looks? Is that a percentage of the maintenance budget? And then we're giving that individual, obviously there's going to be capital costs that come up, right? You got to replace a boiler or something and you deal with that separately. But how does the budgeting for this look, and how can we, Duncan, support you kind of figuring that out and making the proposal to the select board?
Well, I think it's similar to that RFP process. We should try to write something up that we can provide to multiple people as contractors. I think more I learned about this job is we got to be a little transparent of what we're asking for our tasks, and we could maybe provide some sort of contract. Like, once again, we developed relationships with our mowers. We can develop relationships with our building maintenance too, with certain contractors for a certain year, I feel.
Makes sense.
Duncan,
Yeah.
do you know what I think they increased, and Adam, you might know too, in the budget for the building. I think they increased the maintenance budget from last year to this year that just got approved.
We did. I don't remember the
I
numbers.
thought
off
you
the
went
top
to
of my
maybe
head.
25,000. I thought you went from
think it went
15 to
from
25.
15 to 25 or 20 to 25.
I think you were
It
15 to 25. Okay.
It was
So I'm just
percentage
putting,
wise was a big increase, but I think that we can, it
I'm putting
wasn't so
20
much that.
I'm putting 25K in the meeting minutes just for us, and we can reconfirm that number, because that is what is that in the budget to actually do the work for the parts and the labor. So if we need to go outside that kind of thing, I know somebody's going to draft the RFP, and in my meeting minute notes, I've got here that we're looking at property maintenance / management, RFP, company or individual, handyman with a number of hours through a contract potentially, that we need to research the cost and develop an RFP to make sure that the costs are within our budget. That we might propose to the select board with an RFP. Is that good meeting minute notes? Is everybody yes, no, maybe?
So do we want to propose this, or do you want to propose it, Duncan? Do you want this to come from us, or do you want it to come from you?
No, yeah. Do not have me propose anything. You guys.
Okay.
He says not it.
Yeah.
He says
No,
not
that's what I
it.
imagine.
Once again, I think we can go in multiple directions with this. I'm not saying this is we have to do it sort of thing, but yes, the more I think about it, it's just like, I think it's a good thing for this committee to consider with an older building. As we deal with multiple employees, you have to have some sort of system in place that knows that building a little better than an individual. It's like that's what you lose essentially.
The only comment I have is if somebody's feeling that our current contractor who does cleaning isn't doing a good enough job, if somebody feels like a current contractor with mowing isn't doing the job, who's overseeing this maintenance person, this handyman, to make sure
me.
they're not
Yes,
just, I know, but
my job.
I think
Right.
that's right. But I think we need to make sure if we're making a recommendation to the select board, we identify that to them. That's all I'm saying, Duncan.
Right, no.
I love that you've now identified it's you. And we will make sure I put that in the notes to be overseen by,
it would be the town manager or the assistant town manager. It wouldn't be me. It would be obviously that person's role to oversee those contractors like that. Right. Currently, Linda and I are currently the ones who kind of oversee contractors. And as we transition, it's like, it's going to be, always different, but it's like, we always have a relationship with the contractors in different ways. Because when we're there
but this
at
one's a
different times,
specific.
Yeah,
This
yeah,
is
and no,
yeah, we're
it's-
doing an RFP. So if we're going to do an RFP, I think that's part of being clarifying for a presentation that we do to the recommendation to the select board. That's all. I
Right.
just wanted it in the meeting minute notes. I got it. We're good.
Cool.
So where we're at right now is who will be doing some kind of research with cost to see if it's at all feasible to hire either an individual handyman or a company that has handyman, however, whatever you call them, to then help develop the RFP. Is that something? I mean, Matt, you did a heck of a job on the other RFP. If Adam or Matt wants
I
to
have
tackle
tons
it.
of contacts for finding actual people if you want, so I can do that. And then I can probably feel a few of them out and get an idea of what we're talking about magnitude for cost. And then we can put together an RFP once we know. I think it would be good to know kind of what we're getting into before we put together an RFP. Does that seem reasonable?
I'd love that idea. Love that idea. Thank you.
I don't
Sounds good,
know if
Adam.
we're talking,
Thanks.
I don't know if we're talking like a $5,000 a year retainer or 50. I mean, I'm not
Exactly.
saying, I'm not saying 50, we would do it, but it would be nice to know that we're not going to get blindsided with like a huge request or whatever.
Because it might be one of those things that this is something that we're working on for down the road. If we
Yep.
get the OPM in, they might say hold off on that for the first six months, or those kinds of things.
Yeah.
So
it would be nice to I imagine
ready.
some of the people I've worked with are like 1 or 2 man groups that they have contractors they use for this stuff. So they would be, and I think this would be across the board of the type of people we would want. They would be receptive to changing the scope of their scope as our maintenance requirements of the building evolve as we do work on it and all that stuff. Does that make sense?
Perfect.
So I think we might have to, we would have to do some finagling with contracts and RFPs and all that, but I know the individual, the 3 people I can think of, the 3 companies, that's pretty normal. A lot of them will come on as we're, in the middle of construction and with phasing and stuff. So I think this is not going to be a situation that they're unfamiliar with, but let me reach out and get at least Pete and
That's
Keith
great.
to give us some input.
That's great.
And Duncan, just for context for us as Adam talks to folks, what are the hours a week that are just kind of rattling around in your head that this takes?
No, I think that fluctuates. I mean, basically what I try to do these days is just every morning and evening when I'm there, I walk around just up and down just to make sure everything looks a-okay, because you don't want to get surprised. But yeah, it's more just as things get troubleshot each day, you could have 2 hours a week, or you could easily have 10 hours a week quick. If it's,
Gotcha.
the bad, conditions, or, if it's, this past few weeks when it was raining a lot and flood conditions, I wanted to look downstairs all the time and make sure it's not puddling up and coming up underneath. If that's puddling up, you got a different situation going on that week. So.
Great, understood. So yeah, maybe just for argument's sake, Adam, maybe it's 5.
It's not as much. Yeah, it's one of those things. It's more like, like you say, once you understand it and see it. But likewise, we still have the ceiling tiles off in certain places just so we keep an eye on it. The post office will call me occasionally and be like, "Oh, there's water leaking here, or this is happening," or there's other things that pop up with it. That's just it's hard to predict, but I try to at least be proactive to just always walk around it too, and just look at it and see it, and there's a few things that you can do to help it along. But yeah, it's an hour, or 2 a week is great.
Okay, that's a good. I can. I know the variability, I think, is kind of part of that industry. So, but yeah, that's a good baseline to kind of start from.
So that's the RFP section of your agenda, Adam. Now we go back up to the reaffirm the mission and that kind of thing. But there's some outstanding questions that I don't really think we can move forward with based on what Mike had said earlier. Understanding the reserve fund balance, understanding the maintenance budget. Is the post office
what questions do you think
still leaking?
Those.
That's what I'm going through. Is those. So he doesn't want to prioritize and look at things until we know more of the funding resources that we currently have.
I don't think that wasn't my impression of what Mike was getting at, but Mike,
Okay.
can you talk to that a little bit? What are your concerns with the funding? I thought it was more that we just want to make sure we have enough funding to. My understanding, we want to make sure that we don't burn up all our funding. We have enough funding to pay the OPM and any professionals such as architect or engineer to
Right.
get to a bond vote. Is that correct? Or is,
Yeah, that's
I could be
basically, I
wrong.
want to make sure that we have enough money going through, and without knowing, what it's going to cost us or what we have to spend, it's hard to, it just makes me feel uncomfortable. I definitely think there are things on the list that we can very much get started doing. But I just like to see some of the numbers first.
Yeah, so would you think it's reasonable? I mean, obviously there's going to be maintenance items that are probably going to come out of this fund while we're doing anything, any planning on a larger project. So our first step would be to kind of quantify what a reasonable order of magnitude of funds is going to be needed to pay the professionals to get to some type of project plan and budget. Does that make sense?
Yes,
once
yes.
we know
That's
how
one
much of that
side,
we're
and
gonna
then the
set
other
aside-
part.
Go ahead.
That's
The
the
other
OPM's
part that
doing.
should be easy is just to find out how much is in that fund.
Yeah, so I think that we have. I think there's 384,000 was my last.
Yeah,
Yes, is that right? 284.
I know that in the town report, it had a number somewhere in that area, but that was at the beginning of the last fiscal year, I think in July. So I don't know what's happened since then.
Adam,
Yeah,
didn't
so
you
we-
just approve some spending?
Yeah, we did.
Monday night?
That's where I'm getting the 284 or the 384. Remember, I thought it ended in 84, but I can confirm that and email it
Yeah.
to everyone.
So that's what I meant by we couldn't make decisions tonight or move
Nice.
in directions because
Gotcha,
Mike wanted
gotcha.
that number. That's the number I was
Yeah.
talking about he wants.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Okay, so
and
ahead,
I
Mike.
would guess that once we get an OPM involved here, that they're gonna, once they get a handle on what they think the size of the project might be, that they probably would be very helpful in coming up with a ballpark number.
So the two pieces we're going to need to really make any decisions going forward to be one will be very easy, which is a clear understanding, just a number of what's in the fund and what's committed, and so what we have available for funds. And the other thing we're going to need, it sounds like in your mind, Mike, is to get the OPM to kind of wrap their head around this, whoever that may end up being, and start to work with us on a budget for professional services to see this through. And then once we have those two numbers, we can kind of, I guess the third piece would be a clear understanding of what the library's expectations are. But I don't think
Is
we're going
that-
to get that.
Is that less the committed, or is that looking at their 12-month potential come back to ask for the select board for funds?
I mean, I think
'Cause you-
both of those, right? The
Okay.
number right now would be what minus committed would be the number we have now. But I think it would knowing this process likely would take months to need to draw down the money.
So
We're not gonna
do we
do
say
that.
library 12-month plan?
Yeah, or the flip side of this is, I mean, I don't know if this is where we want to go, but if we quickly get a clear understanding of what we need to do and we commit money to professional services out of that reserve, I mean, that money's committed and that's ours to use. And I don't think we want to like overstate that or overblow it or overestimate that amount and commit it. But I mean, I think that if we're going to go down that path, then we should commit that money. So it's
Exactly.
marked for it. And so once we do that, we'll have a clear understanding of what's left over to do things such as the front door and brick repointing and all that stuff.
So you've got on the list of going back for you to go back to the select board, and my notes are the name change, the library thing, select board insight into that, and the select board's determination of is it first come first serve or what it is, what their process is with the reserve.
Sure. That makes sense. Yeah, those are all the main questions we need the select board to weigh in on. And then on our end, we need to get the RFP process completed or with the OPM and kind of chugging on that.
Matt's here. So Mike said he sent you that little blurb for that yellow highlighted section.
Yeah.
And we've approved that. I don't know if you were on. I think you came on maybe right after we approved that. So if you can embed Mike's stuff, we took a vote. The three of us voted and are wanting to push that to this motion to send that to the select board with we approved the RFP recommendation to the select board.
That sounds great.
with
Super easy.
Mike Storr's amendment.
Yeah, I thought that was a great blurb Mike put there. Thanks, Mike. I'll throw that in.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
Bit of a correction. I think we're going to send it to Duncan and Josh, and they're going to put their little. They're going to go through it a little bit too, so before it goes to the select board. But pretty much.
We're sending it to the select board. If the staff
Yeah.
corrects anything and sends it to the select board, it's out of our hands. It's not coming back to us. So
Right.
we've made our motion was to send it to the select board. Duncan added after the fact that he can cruise it with Josh to make sure everything's in there that they normally have, and then pass it on to the select board.
Great. I'll toss the Mike's comment in there and or kind of description of the building in there, and then I'll send it out to everyone this evening.
Great.
So the one thing we needed clarification on, that we had a question earlier, and I don't know, Duncan, are you still on?
Yes, I am.
Is the post office roof, I know you keep tiles off to see if any leaking is going on. Is the post office roof currently leaking, that we have a
No, it
leak
is
that we have
not.
to fix?
No.
Okay,
Well, yes.
thank you.
So yeah, it was once again, it's to say it's not leaking is yes, it's always leaking. We just don't know when or where. But it is in this current state, the current one that popped up over February where it came in through those tiles has stopped. Sometimes it comes in through the post office, sometimes it comes in at our end. But I think all the snow is off the top of it and we should be fine. But sometimes a little spring rain with wind, will drive it in a certain way, and we might get a small leak in the spring rains.
So
That's basically
there's no
the state
immediate
of the.
no immediate repair need
Well-
that you're aware of, that isn't going to go through the actual process of the OPM determining if
No, there's
the full
no
roof
small.
replacement.
Yeah, there's
Okay.
no small. No, we should not do. Every professional I've talked to is like, there's no small fix to this that you're going to do
Okay,
well. You have
good.
a major problem ahead of you with this, in terms of like just the structure of that. It needs to be replaced fairly
Okay.
soon, and that's I think kind of what maybe is Mike or other people are suggesting of like, yeah, there's a lot of other projects that are out there and it's just tough to juggle them all around as you go through stuff. And it is, but it's we survived the winter very well. I was very happy with it.
So
Great.
in the back of our mind, though, we should have a roof over the post office.
Yes, that post
Yeah.
office roof is not in good shape. We've been told by many people. The symptoms are clearly there when there's water popping up all over the place. That's kind of giving you a hello,
Yep, it's on the list. We know it's on the list. So
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure there wasn't an immediate need of something that you needed to have fixed that we are aware of, other than the whole roof needs to be replaced, is what's been discussed.
No, we survived the winter very well. You
Great.
just never know. We're gonna get a few leaks for the next few years, but I think every professional is once again said, in 5 to 10 years, we're asking for trouble, serious, probably trouble. So
Okay, that gives enough time for a bond vote and to get stuff done. Good. Okay. Thanks, Duncan. I appreciate that. I just wanted to update because I had that question outstanding from earlier in the meeting. I'm going to kick it back to you, Adam, for the mission and all of that. And I do have a request that we might consider postponing any further discussion on the mission, et cetera, until the answers to those questions about funding and committed and all of that that Mike brought up earlier in the meeting are answered. I think that I'd be more comfortable answering some of those other questions or looking at some of those other mission issues after we know those answers.
Everyone, I guess I'm indifferent. I can see either one driving the other, so I don't have a strong opinion one direction or the other. Matt, Mike, what are your thoughts? Hello?
Yeah, I've unmuted you.
Okay.
I agree. I think maybe we should hold off and maybe talk about it at the next meeting. We can.
Works for me. I think hopefully we can have a clearer understanding by then.
Yeah.
Yep.
Or
Same.
like.
Okay. Sounds
So,
good. I mean, I think
Adam?
broadly, we all have a kind of a direction we're hoping to go with our mission kind of semblance, but we're gonna let the details pan out and get some more info and
There's
we'll figure it
there's a
out.
lot on your plate, Adam.
I mean,
For
three of the items in my plate are just to ask the select board, so that, you know, that's pretty easy.
well, one
um,
is to ask the select board. 2 is to do the research on the property maintenance, and maybe you can work and work with Matt on doing an RFP for that if you guys determine. I'm good with you guys determining if we should
Yeah, so
draft some
what- so
RFP
what's-
before the next meeting or not.
Okay, so yeah, we won't submit anything, but if it seems like we're in the, you know, if the gut check discussions seem like it's something that is feasible to do right now, then Matt and I will put something together and present it at the next meeting and we can discuss it then. Does that work?
I think that's what the gut check was on the property maintenance management
Perfect.
RFP.
Sounds good. Yep.
So
Yeah, that
you're
makes
going
sense.
to,
So we'll try to bring something to the next meeting, or if it seems like this is well outside, for some reason it's well outside of what we're gonna be able to pull off right now, then we'll have that information too.
the only question that I would have is if either you or Duncan could get the details on the reserve fund balance, the committed out of that fund. And then if the select board has the library 12-month plan, if they've been presented with that at all, and confirmation on the maintenance budget number.
Okay, Duncan, is that something you can pull together, or should I talk to Josh about that?
Yeah, I can pull that together. I just gotta try to, yeah, I'll try to remember to get that and
Want me to
give me a
drop
heads
it?
up if I forget. Yeah,
Well,
no, yeah.
I can just drop it in an email to you because I have all the meeting
Yeah,
notes.
that'd be great. Yeah, give me
I'm
give me
making
the
my life
specifics
easier.
of
I
what
took
you
the
want.
notes.
Yeah, if
Okay.
you give me a specific report that you would like to see, I think that's easier for
Perfect.
Connie and I to coordinate that and make sure we got all our ducks in a row.
Duncan, do you
Perfect.
want me, I mean, Adam, do you want me to just send you, I can send everybody the meeting minute notes tomorrow.
Sure.
I
That would be
just
great.
take,
I
took
would
them,
really appreciate that.
I took them during the meeting to make everybody's life easier.
Makes
That's
sense.
why
Sometimes it's better that way, Kara. It's just better
Yes.
that way anyways.
Yes.
Yeah, get her done, get her done.
So, and that's why I'm going to keep asking as we have meetings for clarification, as you guys are making comments and stuff like that. So I make sure I get them right. So if these are just a draft. So if things aren't right, we'll be approving them at the next meeting and we can change things, but it's just like a to-do list for us to know what we need to do.
Sounds good.
Next meeting agenda. We haven't done that yet. Shall I just draft
we'll
it
have
with
all
to
of it.
include that reaffirm mission area, the whole reaffirm mission area restate?
So reaffirm mission and restate, we'll have an update on the RFP, all the RFPs, 2 RFPs, I guess, right?
Well, how about
One,
update on the OPM RFP? We're going to talk about the doors. I mean, we're going to talk about the windows more, and we're going to talk about the property maintenance management RFP.
correct. And then the windows, we're gonna have, I guess we won't have 2 RFPs, but we are we, is our goal to have both RFPs put together? Or
No, Mike's
what's
going to come back with a number, I thought, and we were going to talk
Okay.
about that more.
Sounds good.
So any other business or anything that you want to add to the agenda for next time that anybody has?
Matt, Mike, is there anything you would like to add for next meeting? We can also add stuff over the next week if anyone thinks of anything you want to email. Kara, are you going to submit the agenda? Or do you want me to do it?
Sure. No, I can do it based on what we've just gone over this one and just submit
Okay.
the next agenda.
So if anyone has anything to add over the next week, can email.
Well, actually, technically, can we just take this agenda and just put on the discuss RFP priorities, just put update in that area, and then it's the same agenda.
Sure.
Right?
Works for me.
That works.
Duncan, are you there?
Duncan's the one that's got to weigh in, but
Duncan?
All right, yes, I heard you.
Same agenda, just update the number 2
Yeah,
discuss.
okay.
Although it can stay the same exact because we're going to discuss it, whether it's an update or not. That's fine. It can stay exactly the same, Duncan.
That's a smart agenda right there. I'm all for it. If that's what you guys want to do, I'm all good.
Well, because everything that you're getting answers to, Adam, when it comes to the select board can be under the reaffirm the mission. and priorities
Sure.
along
Yeah,
with
okay.
numbers.
Right, right. No, we should. Yes, there is a certain system to be played here. So yes, I like what you're thinking. Yeah, I'll make sure to get our transcript of this and make sure we get a good definition of our agenda. So it'll be all good.
So Adam, I've accomplished the task of getting the agenda to Duncan.
Yes.
Speaking of such, when is our next meeting?
It would technically be, should be 4 weeks from now because it's a long month this,
Yeah, you guys.
long.
April 9th is what I see, right? Or are you guys off that? Yeah.
The next one was supposed to be April 9th, right?
Right.
Yeah, so
That's what I see.
Is that 4 weeks or 3 weeks from now? 3 weeks?
Can we go to April 9th? Is that okay? Do you have enough time, Adam, to talk to the select board or whatever we have to do there? Or do we want to push that out further?
I think.
Duncan, is that reasonable with the RFP getting in front of the select board at their next select board
Probably
meeting?
not for April 9th. Yeah, probably not. You probably won't have a decision by that point.
No.
But you guys, yeah, I would think if you want to see what the select board knows, you want to know what May 14th is your other one.
Oh no, we have to do it before May 14th.
But no, you guys could still, I would still just meet and just keep meeting. We'll see what we get, where we get it. Yeah, maybe.
I think April 9th works for me. So I will.
Yes.
April 9th,
I think we should
7
just
p.m.
keep it. Yes. Yeah.
Works for me.
We should try to do it if we get the RFP in place and everything falls in order, great. But if not, you guys should just keep meeting and we'll keep pushing it forward.
Perfect. That works out perfect for me. Great. I've got that in the meeting minutes. We're good to go. Let me know if anybody needs anything else, but.
And we're just copy pasting the agenda for what? For how long? Just kidding.
Hey, watch it. We could do it for the next 6 months. If we don't have an OPM yet, it could be for 6 months.
One meeting at a time for now. I'll just do it one meeting at a time for now. But yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
No, that was good stuff. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Duncan. Does anyone have anything else, or that wraps up our warrant agenda? Go ahead, Mike.
Just a couple of tiny things here that I had thoughts after our last meeting that we talked about. One thing we talked about was the surveys for the level of the post office floor and why there was a small difference between the two. And it didn't hit me at the time when Adam said, well, maybe the buildings, there's a different level at somewhere else. In the Black River proposal, they proposed putting a slab of a few inches of concrete back at the loading dock to bring it up above some level. So I wouldn't be surprised if the two different surveys they had were the two different ends of the building. That may explain why they have two different surveys with a difference. That was one. The other thought I had, we were looking for a place for radiate art out of the basement, and they've asked for a larger room where they could hold possibly a shared room that they could hold larger meetings. So I'm wondering if we need to provide them with a room, a constant room, if we can give them a dedicated space in some other space. And it would take some moving around to find that space, but I got some ideas on that as well. But that are just a couple of things that came to mind that we talked to about last meeting that I thought I'd put out.
Great. If
That's
you have
all.
any, if you want to put your thoughts on Radiate together, Mike, for the next meeting, I think.
I think in order to find them a space, we basically need to free up that large room up front where the zoning is, and that we'd have to do some musical chairs around the building, moving some people around, which I think we could do, and maybe make some people unhappy and most people happy with the things they've asked him for. But I don't know that we're at that point right now, but it's just some thoughts for the future.
Well, I think that's a good point. I joke with the copy paste with the agenda, but we can put in little specifics each week. I will never post an agenda until like the week before. It makes no sense. So
Yeah.
as we get closer to each week, I'll help remind the committee of our basic general agenda, and then we can put in our little own remarks like that, and that would be great. That'd be perfect. That'd be perfect transparency, perfect way to do it over email for our agenda, and then we have something that we can post and be ready to meet at virtually, in person, or hybrid. Either way, it'll be great.
Sounds good.
Right now we do have, just to give you heads up, building usage was number 2 on the mission. So that would fall under that area.
Okay. Yeah.
So, and then we had other business, as an agenda item too, that could, something else like that could fall underneath that. That's why we have other business there.
Perfect. Matt, do you have anything else? Any comments? Express? Okay.
Sorry, I'm struggling with the meeting is a little slow for me. No, nothing else.
Perfect. I guess I'd entertain a motion to adjourn if no one has anything.
I make the motion.
Yeah, second.
Motion is second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. You're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Have a good evening.